Hi everyone, Happy New Year. Welcome to the Star Wars Autograph Collection 2014 Year in Review. Where we have so much to look forward to in 2015 from Star Wars. I want to take a second before too long and look back at 2014 because it was a really exciting year for me. Got to do a lot. It was the busiest year I've had so far. So I've written this kind of rundown with photos and autographs and videos of the Q&As that I was able to cover for 2014, which you get to see in a minute. But before we do that, I want to just kind of run down, just kind of talk about some of the highlights for me. It's been, like I said, it's been the busiest year. I'm now up to, since I started collecting in 2006, I've been to 53 conventions in 5 different countries, 25 different cities around the world. It's been great. It was really busy. It was a lot. It was a lot for me to go to. This year I went to about 21 conventions and signings that I went to in person, which is, that's that's a pretty busy schedule. But I enjoy it. I do it because I really enjoy being able to report, share what I see at the conventions. I know not everybody can go, and not everybody can get photos at the conventions because now you get to pay for them. So whatever I'm able to share from the conventions, I really, that's my goal. In addition to, of course, letting you know where signings are going to take place, where Star Wars actors are going to be, where the private signings are, etc. I like to report from the shows. So this year I had some pretty cool moments. I got to go to Steel City Con for the first time. It's just outside of Pittsburgh. It's a long drive from Boston, but it's a show I've been wanting to go to for a long time because they always have Star Wars guests, and those are the types of shows I want to go to, because you know that when you see one or two Star Wars actors or crew every time they do the show, you know that the organizers know that it's important to have Star Wars representation. So I like to make sure that they get the coverage that they deserve for Star Wars fans, so they know that's like a destination for us. If they get us, and they know that it's important to provide access to Star Wars actors for us. So it was a great show. Thanks to Dominic, who's one of the organizers, we had talked and had me come down to his show. It was a lot of fun. I had a couple of shows that were, I had to do a lot of kind of running around, and timing had to be just perfect. One of those days I went to South Coast Toy and Comic Show up here in Massachusetts, and then a friend had told me that Phil Tippett was going to be at a show in New Jersey that same day. So I went to the first show, which is about an hour from my house in Fairhaven, Mass. And Orly Shoshan was there, and Mark Dodson were there. I got to see them for a little bit, see some of my friends. I got to take a picture of Mark that you'll see. He's kind of doing this, and he has the artwork behind him of all the gremlins and stuff. He has that shot available for at his table now for signing. So it was kind of cool. I took that picture. I didn't do any of the artwork design behind it, but I took the actual photo of him at that show at South Coast, which is really cool. And then I stayed for about an hour, and then I drove right down to New Jersey. It was raining. It was kind of a rainy day, and I'm not a big fan of driving in the rain, so it took me about 4 hours to get down there. But I arrived 15 minutes before Phil Tippett had left. I got there just in time. He had finished his Q&A. He was back at his table, so it was just, thankfully, after 4 hours of driving, that I was able to make it, I made it. That was it was awesome, because Phil Tippett we owe so much to him for how the movies look and the feel of the movies, the work that he did, that to meet him was just an honor, and to get his autographs that much more. So that all worked out. Boston Comic Con this year asked me to moderate the Star Wars panel, which was a huge honor. It was the first time I've second time I've moderated a panel. The first time I've done it on my own. It was Joe Quiones, Kat Skaggs, and Dave Seeley, who are all artists. We did a Star Wars panel, and they talk about their careers and their art. We talked about Star Wars. Got a lot of great questions from the audience. It was full to capacity, which was about 100 people. Which, you know, for me it was cool, because you're of course afraid that nobody's gonna come, but that wasn't the case. When I walked down to the where the room was, it was full of people, and you know, like I said, that's, for me, that was a great moment, and a huge honor that was given to me from Boston Comic Con. So I really appreciate that. Also, Sam Witwer was a guest that weekend at Boston Comic Con, and I was able to record his Q&A, which is in this piece, this look back at 2014. I asked him a question about Star Wars during the Q&A, and he went on for about 8 or 9 minutes talking about Star Wars. If you've not had a chance to listen to Sam talk about Star Wars, do yourself a favor and do it. I first noticed this back at Celebration 6. I covered, I went to the press conference for Rebels. I'm sorry, for Clone Wars. And he started talking, and you could just see how much he knows and understands and loves Star Wars. So please, any opportunity you have to listen to him, start with this video here. But he's doing a lot. He does a lot with Rebel Force Radio and other outlets. Any chance you have, if you love to talk Star Wars with your friends and get really deep about it, listen to him, because I don't think anybody goes as deep as he does. It's really a great thing to listen to. Another exciting night I had was at a show in Connecticut called Comic Con, CONN, which is a cool show. I'd never been before. A good friend of mine, Leo, was in from Amsterdam. I picked him up that evening at like 4 o'clock, well, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We came back to my house, and then within an hour we're driving down to Connecticut. It was a pretty long drive. We got there with less than an hour to go in the show, and the people at the door weren't going to let us in because we didn't have a ticket. Thankfully, one of the organizers, Mitch, was walking by, and he was nice enough to let us in. So I remember I had 50 minutes to go and get all the autographs I needed. I think I had 15 to 16 photos to get signed, and I got 13 done in 15 minutes. So it was a race against time, and Leo and I were working together, and it was just, it was a great night. And again, it could have gone really bad if they didn't let us in after all that driving. But Mitch is a really good guy, and he puts on a nice show. So, you know, Mitch, if you are seeing this, thank you. I had 2 day trip shows that had no business being day trips, but one was to Washington, D.C. For AwesomeCon, which I really wanted to cover. I had a press pass to go to the show. It was Easter weekend, so I had to work Friday night, and I had to be home for Easter. So I drove down very early in the morning. I got there at like 10 o'clock in the morning when the show, 10:30, I think I parked the car. And parked the car. Okay, for everybody that likes the Boston accent, there's your park the car. I didn't even mean it, but there's my Christmas present to you. It was like 10:30, I got there, and I went to the show. A great show. I loved every second of it. I got to see my friend Doug and my friend Vic, who does Superman. There's a picture of him in here, Superman. And I don't think anybody looks as good as him doing Superman. He has it nailed, perfect cosplay. John Morton, who I always love talking to, was down there. It was a really good show. So, except I had, it was great. 5 o'clock, the show was over, in my car, driving back to Boston for Easter. So that was a lot of driving, but it was a good show, and I'm glad I did it, and it all worked out. I had to do the same thing for Montreal Comic Con this year. Could only go Saturday. Montreal's only it's 300 miles from Boston, and it's a trip I make pretty regularly. So at this point, it's a really easy drive, and I love it. I love Montreal. I love the city. I've been going there for about 20 years now with my friends, and I just really enjoy the city. So I got to go up to the show, and Katie Sackhoff was a guest, and she's not always able to make her commitments when it comes to shows. So thankfully she did this time. I got to meet her and get her autograph. Got a few things signed I needed to get signed, and saw her Q&A. Again, it was a great day of shows, just a lot of driving. And the show was over. I went to I swung by my favorite bar up there in Montreal. They have Deux de Ciel. It's a great brew pub, microbrewery. And then, stay for a little bit. Saw a good friend from a whole nother circle of my life that happened to be there as a DJ. And then, waited a little bit and then drove back. And I was home for, I think I got back to Waltham about 3 o'clock in the morning. So you can see I do a lot of driving for these shows. But I don't mind. I enjoy it. I like the driving. It adds to the adventure a bit, Those shows that are over 6 hours, 7 hours, it can be a bit of a drive. I don't love those, but I'll do it if I can get good coverage and there's good guests. I don't mind driving. I'd rather stay over, just make it a weekend or something like that. I had a few great events that weren't Star Wars related, but were really cool. I had I got to meet Dan Aykroyd, who is a co-owner of Crystal Head Vodka. So he does signings at liquor stores around the world, and he came to Massachusetts. So I went, I met him, I got a couple bottles of his vodka signed, but I also brought some photos of him from Ghostbusters, Temple of Doom, and Blues Brothers. So I've been a fan of his forever. So it was really amazing to get to meet him. I also got to see Al Pacino do a talk in Boston. He did it was called An Evening with Al Pacino. He talked about his career, and as a Sicilian American, Al Pacino was just one of those people you just, yeah, you love him, and he's he's in The Godfather. There's a lot of respect, and he's one of ours. So it was great to get to see him talk about his career, talk about being Italian and everything. So that was a great moment. And in line with that, I got to see Chaz Palminteri do his one-man show of A Bronx Tale. I've seen it many, many times over the years. I've met him many times, but I got to meet him again this time. Nice moment. And I always, it's just a movie that I really relate to, and I love, just one of my favorite movies that isn't Star Wars. So those are great moments. It was also the year, this 2014, one of the biggest things about 2014 was I really got into through the mail collecting. So I'd done a little bit of it before, like here and there I might have sent out 2 or 3 things. But this year I sent out, 30 packages at least. And most of them came back, signed. I'm still waiting on a few, but I got some great successes. I really fell in love with it. And I'm looking forward to just keeping going with that, because you add people that you never would otherwise. Or I never would otherwise. The money, conventions are expensive, and the autographs are getting really expensive. I went to all these shows, but you wouldn't know it based on how many autographs I was able to take home with me, because I just couldn't afford it. But through the mail, it's much more affordable. And I hesitated for a while because everybody said, well, the time's gone. People don't do it anymore. And people who had really gotten thousands of autographs through the mail, I kind of felt, well, what's the point? I missed that boat. But I found, I used Star Tiger, as a resource, and I just look at the successes, and I'm able to, other people were successful. I've just followed in their footsteps. So there's still plenty of autographs to be found through the mail. And if you haven't done it yet and you want to, there's a video I included on just the basics. It's not 100% accurate. There's a few, I had a few mistakes. I had a mistake about sending overseas, just disregard that part, but just the basics of how to do it. If you want to get started, there's a video that you can follow, and people have gotten some good feedback about it. So, and also ask me any questions. Happy to help you or point you into the right direction. So, some of the through the mail I got, it's all mostly tied to Star Wars somehow. Like Weird Al dressed up as the Jedi for his The Saga Begins song, with he does, does a lot of Star Wars in his show. But he's dressed up and he has the 501st on stage with him. So I got a few of those shots signed. And Ed Asner, who I've been watching on TV forever, he had a voice. He was Jabba the Hutt in the radio drama, and he did a voice in I think Knights of the Old Republic. So I got a couple of his. I got to add, he's not known for Star Wars, but through those small parts, I was able to add him to my collection. Gene Wilder, one of my favorite actors. I got a nice shot of him from Willy Wonka. And Mel Brooks I got a shot of him in Spaceballs, so really cool. Amanda Lucas, one of George Lucas's daughters, I got a few shots of her from the prequels. Sophia Loren, again, Italian, beautiful. And so I got to add her to my collection. And Bob Newhart, again, been on TV forever. I can't remember a time I didn't see Bob Newhart on TV, but recently he's been on Big Bang Theory a lot as a recurring role, but this last one, his character died, and he comes back as a blue glowy Force ghost, and he has to dress up as a Jedi, and he's got the lightsaber. So I got a few shots of him signed. Again, just makes it just I love the collecting from the movies and everybody from the movies, the crew, and no matter how small the part. That's the crux of the collecting. But for me, adding these other characters and artists and authors and voice actors, anything that has to do with Star Wars. I mean, I have a Carrie Fisher signed holiday special, the holiday special one. No, Anthony Daniels. I still need Carrie Fisher on that shot. Anthony Daniels. He wasn't happy about it. We joked around about it, but he signed it. And I have Cindy Williams from Laverne and Shirley. She was Shirley. And William Catt, Greatest American Hero. They auditioned for Princess Leia and Luke Skywalker. They obviously didn't get the part, but I still have the autographs for Star Wars. And I got some nice conversation with them based on their auditions. So it is what you make it, and there's no one way to collect. And this is my way, and it's fun for me. There's other people that look at this and say that's ridiculous. I would never do it that way. It's the beauty of it. There's no right way to do it, So you make it your own. That's the fun of this. So those were all great moments, but there's one that was the best, and not just the 2014, but of any year that I've been collecting, and that was the Saturday of New York Comic Con back in October. So the day was I had to get to New York Comic Con, cover the Star Wars, the New Dawn panel with John Jackson Miller. I think that was from 3 to 4. And then I had to jump in a cab and go a bit of a ways down to a bookstore called Books of Wonder. And that's where Star Wars Reads Day was happening, and Pablo Hidalgo was there, Tony DiTerlizzi was there, Matthew Reinhardt. So I think there were 5 authors there. And then after that was done, get back to Javits Center for Comic-Con to cover the Star Wars Rebels panel. And after that was all said and done, go up to Broadway and hopefully get Ewan McGregor's autograph when he came out of his show, The Real Thing. So the timing had to be perfect, and it's hard for me to even comprehend what happened, but it all worked out. I went to the New Dawn panel. I saw my friends from Star Wars Underworld. We talked a little bit, and New Dawn panel was done, and they're heading down to the Rebels panel, and we were going to meet up. I was like, I got to go. Jumped in the cab, made it to Books of Wonder. It had already started, but just started. All kids listening to the authors talking about Star Wars, and you see these little kids, and you're like, that's the future. Star Wars is not going to end. These kids are loving it. And they did this, the guy that wrote I forget his last name, wrote the origami books, and we all made a little origami Yoda. Mine looked horrible. It was fun, and I stayed for the whole thing, and then they did some signing afterwards. I was only able to get a couple autographs because then I had to fly back to Javits for New Dawn, which was starting at 6:45. So it was, timing had to be perfect. And so I left Books of Wonder. I couldn't find a cab. So I'm in the middle of New York. I'm trying to find a cab. A few went by me. I didn't get in. Finally, I grabbed one. It's like after 5:30. And we get towards Javits. I can see Javits, but the traffic is just backed up all the way back. So I had to jump out of the cab, pay for the cab, jump out, hoof it down to Javits, and I walk in right as the end of the line is going in for Rebels, and made it in. I had to sit way in the back. Thankfully, they put up the screens, the projectors, so I knew I wasn't going to be able to get any shots of Vanessa Marshall with my camera of her, but I got some of her on the TV, and sometimes you get what you get. It was worth it for me to get that seat because I got to do Star Wars Reads Day, and it was a great event. So I got to cover all, everything I needed to do then. It happened. It was that kind of good stress when you kind of your adrenaline's pumping, and it was a lot of fun. And I went to the Rebels panel. That was great. We saw a whole episode that hadn't aired yet of Rebels, and it was a really good episode. So I did that. Wrapped up Saturday night. I grabbed something to eat, and then I made my way up to Broadway, where Ewan McGregor was in The Real Thing. And the show started at 8. I got out there just after 8. Now, before that, the week before, I had put out on my Facebook page, hey, does anybody have any advice for me on how I can get this autograph? Because I had never gone to a venue, like a theater, to get an autograph afterwards. My good friend Tony, who's down in Florida, he walked me through, step by step, walked me through. I got a lot of other advice too, which was all really good, but Tony really made it very clear as what the directions I had to do, the steps I had to take, where I had to go, what time I had to be there, what to look for. I followed his instructions, except I got there at like 8:15, and I sat outside for the entire 2 hours until he came out. I made friends with the security guard. We talked the whole time. He was a great guy. And he decided to set up the fence around the door where they come out. He's like, stand right here. This is where you need to be. And I stood there, and one of the women from, she was a blonde from Sex and the City. She came out first, and I was like, wow, that's great. And a guy came out that I thought was Ewan McGregor, but it wasn't him. And then Ewan McGregor came out. And he goes around the fence, bump, 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 and signing for everybody. It's getting closer to me and closer to me. And I'm on Facebook. I've been talking to everybody on Facebook that kind of updating my progress. And I got, I could feel the excitement. People were encouraging me. And it was, everything was building up to this moment. And I didn't bring anything Star Wars. There was no Obi-Wan Kenobi shots for me to have him sign because I knew he would say no. It was pretty well documented. And other people have said he will not sign anything Star Wars related. So I didn't even bother. And I had my badge from Comic-Con, and I put it out and he signed it. And, is it the best thing to have signed? Nope, but I'm not selling it. It's mine. All my autographs are a way for me to remember that moment, the interaction with the actor. And that's one of the best ones, to meet Ewan McGregor. I mean, he's Obi-Wan, There's James Arnold Taylor, and he's Obi-Wan as well, but this is Obi-Wan, this is Obi-Wan from the movies, and it was really a very, very amazing experience, and one I'll never forget. And not just meeting him, but again, that interaction I had with everybody on Facebook that night. One of my favorite nights, since I've started doing the site, just that interaction with people on the page. It really made it for me. So I thank you all so much for your support that night, for your support since I've started. It's been overwhelming. We're getting close to 2,000 likes on Facebook, and I'm on Pinterest and Twitter and all those other things. But when I started, I didn't know if I would have, anybody, follow me. So it's been great, and I thank you all again. I look forward to seeing you in 2015, especially at Star Wars Celebration. So if you're going, make sure you let me know. And I hope you all had a great New Year's and have a very prosperous and happy 2015. And of course, may the Force be with you.